Farmers of Reddit. What did your animals do that made you go, how the F did you do that? Had a donkey that would open gates for the horses and cows. Then he'd just walk through the fence into a closed pasture. I'd get back from running errands and the place would be a show. The horses would be destroying the hay barn and the cows were in the neighbor's hayfields or tearing up the lawn. And the donkey is off on his own like he had nothing to do with it. Edit, yes. This donkey inspired my username. What an A. Worked at a stable with 53 horses and 1 donkey. One morning, while feeding, I came across an empty stall that hadn't been empty at 11 PM the night before. This stall belonged to a huge Frisian ex-Percheron stallion. The mystery was, the stall door was completely closed and secure. And I was alone. So no one else would have taken him. How did this giant horse teleport out of his stall? Well, we had small feed windows that some of the horses had learned to open with their mouths. This wasn't a big deal as we'd just latch them shut with clips. The openings were big enough for them to stick their heads out. But not really their bodies, lol. His was open. So he actually somehow squeezed through the feed window, jump maybe? I have no idea to this day how it happened. But it gets better. I had left all the mares, female horses, outside overnight. My heart sank when I ran to the pasture and found him chasing breeding with all the girls. Like his own harem. He had a SY fun night. It was a rough day having to parade all the mares past his stall to see if they mated. And then calling their owners to tell them their horses needed plan B. Cow on the roof. They climb ladders sometimes but can't get down. Since when can cows climb ladders? Since mountain goats can climb walls like Spider-Man. I had a goat that would turn the barn lights off and on at night. No clue why he did it. And he always shut them off after turning them on. We weren't sure exactly WHO was working the light switch, but suspected it was him. He was a fairly bright individual. No pun intended. It was confirmed that it was indeed Chevy flipping them on off when we gifted him to lady who fell in love with him when visiting the farm. And the lights have not been turned on by anything other than a human since. He was sending sauce for a mate. Grew up with horses. Had this one mare who was too smart. She would shove hay objects under her water spigot and flood the barn if you did not pay enough attention to her. She had 4 locks on her stall because she figured out how to open all of them, including a carabiner clip. On more than one occasion during the night, she would escape her stall, unlock all the other horses' stalls and have a horse party till morning. When there's half a dozen horses in the garden eating the summer vegetables and another half dozen clip-clopping down the road, confusing motorists, and have a horse party till morning. Sounds like a nightmare. Our cat was a stray that someone dumped, and she hung around our place for a while before we actually took her in. During that time, my grandma had gotten her hip replaced, and her nurses were worried she might trip on the cat while trying to get in the car for physical therapy appointments. So my grandma decided to let one of the nurses take the cat to the Humane Society, which was at least a few miles away, down many busy streets and a highway. 2 days after she took the cat there, I opened the door, and the cat was sitting right on the front stoop, looking peeved off. My grandma let her in, and said okay. She lives here now. Not a farmer, but my pet goat once opened my password locked safe. I don't know how, or why. I would watch a lockpicking goat's YouTube channel. Video starts. Shows top of table with a lock and a pair of hooves. In a cool calm voice, this is the lockpicking goat. And today I have a master lock that I'll be picking. A mob of yearlings somehow carried an old tractor cab, no longer attached to the tractor obviously, 1 stroke 4 mile across a paddock. It was heavy enough we had to use the loader to put it back again. Also a steer wearing an old tire like a necklace. He could have shaken it off at any time, but he chose not to. Cattle proofing your yard is harder than it first appears. Old tires are just cow bling, man. Everyone knows that. full grown Nubian goat taking about 5 feet tall at the shoulders. A good 150-170 pounds. Squeezed her Fede through the 2x2 foot pop door in the chicken cooperative. For no other reason but to see what was in there. Then proceeded to climb up the 1 foot wide, 4 feet long particle board gangplank to the raised roosts and laying boxes when I tried to get the out of the coop through the man door. I still have no idea how a dinky ramp we built from scrap for chickens held her fat A. She then taught her shorter but fatter daughter how to do it. This was done multiple times until fencing was altered so they couldn't get to the coop at all. They also get poop in 2 places with scary accuracy. Just anything in the goat barnet at risk if getting poop on or in it. I needed to read this today. Thank you lol. I love the frustration dripping from your post. Makes me wanna have goats. One of my neighbors called me to let me know she had come home to find one of my young goats, like 5 months old, inside her house down the road. To this day we have no idea how the F that happened. No holes in either layer of fencing on my end. No other people in her home who could have brought him in there. She had no pet door and none of her doors was ajar when she got home. She did however have a few open windows on her 2nd story, so we are thinking maybe he climbed a tree next to her house and jumped. But goats usually aren't very graceful or precise creatures, so no clue how honestly. I saw a barn cat successfully take down and kill a wild turkey. To this day, I still can't believe my own eyes. Weird barn cat story. Go. My grandpa had a barn cat named Mickey, who would attack anything or anyone who got too close. My grandpa would tell us whenever we visited not to get near it. That's not a pet. It's a mousetrap. I was 6-7 and accidentally walked too close to it and it went full batch throttle. Darted right at me. I had never been so scared in my life, and then my mama bear mom intercepted it and kicked that FL like a football full of helium. We didn't see him for a couple days. Mom was worried she'd actually killed him. But luckily, he shows back up. Mean as ever. Dart except to my mom. He would walk right up to her and morph into the sweetest little bastard you've ever met. When we'd have fires outside each night, he'd stroll in, hiss at everyone, then lay down on my mom's lap. Taking a hike? He followed her. Drive to the market? Guess who would be waiting in the dirt driveway? We found her eating on the hammock one afternoon, with Mickey right on top of her, fast asleep. Mickey died before our next visit. But my grandpa loved telling that story. The noble savage finally made a friend. Real recognized real. Largest Muscovy drake, a type of duck, we had broke into the juvenile chicken coop through a door that was way too small for him and gorged himself on their high protein feed. He couldn't get back out. The old fist in a cookie jar problem. My neighbor's llamas would open the gate and visit another neighbor they liked because he gave them apples. AWW, that's sweet. I grew up on a farm. One year we had goats that were constantly getting out of the pen, which had a 6 feet fence. My dad built it up to 10 feet. And an hour later they were out again. He puts up army netting over the top of the whole enclosure. Looks out the window half an hour later, and a goat is walking along the top of the fence like it's no big deal. Not a farmer but a cattleman. And also not my animals. My father's property has a small lake on it. That lake has a 7-foot long alligator gar in it that easily weighs 300 pounds. Effine river monster type Imagine a fish with the head, jaws, armor, and teeth of an alligator, but it's way bigger than you are and can swim faster than a speedboat in short bursts. There are no other sizable fish in that lake, so we're guessing it feeds off of drinking animals. This theory is supported by the fact that half of a large animal is occasionally found floating in the shallow. It's managed to take more than one brown bear. Luckily the lake is outside of the ranch itself, and the gar had made itself an effective coyote corpse disposal system. Seeing that thing rocket out of the water to grab a whole coyote like it's nothing still gives me nightmares. Glad I'm not a fisherman. We had several entertaining animals. Nana the calf figured out how to open every door in the barn. She did hundreds of dollars of damage to the saddles by chewing on them to get the salt from the horse's sweat. She later got addicted to the root beer candy in Nad's overalls pocket. That, and the fact we used to wrestle when she was a calf, led to full-grown Nala greeting my father by sticking her head between his legs and flipping him onto her back in an attempt to get the candy. He normally didn't keep bucket calves, but she was a character and very intelligent. We had a pig that thought it was a horse. Wasn't happy unless she was roaming the pastures with the herd. The neighbor had a dog that could shoot basketballs into the hoop. We got a pup off of him and she was crazy smart. She trained the rest of the cow dogs to follow. We had a goat that would break up bullfights. Bulls fighting is a bad deal because they can break their peepees, rendering them worthless. The goat would horn them in the nuts to break it up. He would also bathe in the bull piss, so he didn't smell very good. I know male goats will piss on their beards for the chicks, I guess. Bull piss must have made him pretty popular.